It's another fresh episode of Gist Nigeria from the BBC and Channels Television. Here we track stories online and in the news and dissect them. I am Wale Fakile. Let's kick off with our top story. Nigeria is one of the countries struggling to feed its citizens. In 2023, the United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund, UNICEF, said 25 million Nigerians were at high risk of food insecurity. The same year, authorities declared a national emergency on food insecurity. As at February 2024, food inflation stood at 37.92%, spiraling out of the reach of many households. One of the efforts to address this crisis is the introduction of genetically modified foods. Now, it is argued it will address hunger, malnutrition, and food insecurity. But this option has remained a controversial issue. In this story, Gist Nigeria's Mercy Frank speaks to experts to get the facts and assess Nigeria's implementation strategy.
Nigeria's population continues to expand despite internal issues such as insecurity and the global impact from climate change. Amid this growth, one issue seems to worry the country's over 200 million people: what to eat. Even with fertile lands and abundant natural resources, food security remains a major challenge. To address this, different solutions have been explored. Genetically modified organisms, also known as GMOs, are one of them.
All genetically approved products so far in the world, they are all confirmed safe.
It's not like the foods that the GMO foods are more superior in all types of nutrients. It's just certain types of nutrients.
And with that comes a crucial question. Can we secure a future where everyone has enough to eat without consequences? For decades, Nigeria has been a claimed leader in various types of agricultural production, but food shortages remain rampant across the country. To plug this gap, the country is making moves to embrace non-traditional modes of farming.
Genetically modified organisms are organisms equipped with what ordinarily they shouldn't have.
If you want bitter leaf to be sweet, you can identify what makes sugar cane to be sweet, and you move that particular characteristic into the bitter leaf, and the bitter leaf will become sweet.
The concept of genetically modified foods was introduced to Nigeria in 2001. In 2004, Nigeria signed a memorandum of understanding with the United States government to support genetically modified crops. In 2015, former President Goodluck Jonathan signed the National Biosafety Management Act, which allowed the free flow of GMOs in Nigeria. Then in 2019, Nigeria approved its first GMO food crop, the cowpea. And in January 2024, the Nigerian government approved the open cultivation and commercial release of the Teller maize. These moves by the government are expected to improve the living conditions of Nigerians.
Instead of your regular seed giving you, say, 1 ton per hectare, for GMO, you're able to get like 2.5.
So they are increased in vitamin A, some of the GMO foods, so that they can cover some of the people that have those deficiencies.
Since the introduction of genetically modified crops in Nigeria, there have been pushbacks from the ecosystem. Seen from the perspective of the farmers is imperative.
I could buy 10 grams for say 9,000 naira. If I'm still going to buy a GMO plant tomato for 10 grams, in fact, those ones, they don't calculate them in grams, they calculate them in seeds. So let's say 100 seeds, I could buy it for as much as 18 to 20,000 naira.
The seed would be able to withstand all of this stress, both the climate stress, the biotic and the abiotic stress.
Farmers, instead of spraying 10 times, they may not spray more than once or twice. And you know the implication of chemicals on the environment.
The debate around the nutritional value rings louder. A dietitian gives insight.
There are some GMO breeds of oils, especially soybean oil, that has been altered to reduce something called trans fats, which is one of the drivers of high cholesterol, and to increase something called the healthy fats or the monounsaturated fats in it.
But there are other concerns.
Because they are usually cultivated along with some chemical inputs, they harm the soils.
GMO displaces the balancing of the ecosystem of a particular area where they are cultivated.
We are dealing with grassroots and peasant farmer, and they always want anything that can double the yield. So we are just fearing the consequence.
Yes, the trade war between agrochemicals and the biotechnology industry, because those organisms that have been plants and that have been developed for insect resistance or use of less chemicals, I tell you that they are feeling that they are going to lose on the long run.
Just as seen in parts of the world that have embraced genetically modified foods, this advocate warns of looming legal issues.
If you continue growing GMO here for the next 2 years, every seed that is around this area has had their chemical or their genetic component polluted, or they've been, because the pollens, the breeze blows the pollens into the next one and they crossbreed.
There have been cases of those chemicals causing cancers, and people have successfully litigated against those who produce the chemicals.
He also warns of unnecessary commercialization.
They may germinate very well at the first planting, but then the next year you have to go back to buy a new set of seeds. You don't save the seeds to replant.
If farmers do not have the technology to preserve this food in order to ensure that it increases the shelf life, so you continue to have food insecurity crisis.
With advocacy for the GMOs comes the right for consumers to choose. But how much do they know?
I'm not really particular about if it's GMO or it's natural.
Most of the foods we consume here in the city, they are foods that has this, they are GMOs.
No, they don't identify it. Unless you use your spiritual eye, you know them.
The National Biosafety Management Agency Act prescribes that all GMOs must be labeled. However, Just Nigeria took trips to different supermarkets and chain stores across Lagos, Nigeria's commercial hub, but operators of the facilities were unable to confirm if they stocked GMO foods. We also did not find any clear and visible labeling of foods to indicate whether they have been genetically modified.
For now, they are not in the market, apart from some distributors that have basically been designated to be given to some farmers that are trying to produce the seed in large quantity for farmers.
While the debate rages on, the underlying concern for stakeholders is safety.
Most of the researches are short-term, and most of them are done on animals.
Those who run roadside restaurants cannot label, so you don't have a choice.
With the nation's eyeball on food sufficiency, everyone has a responsibility.
How about we go back to growing our food by ourselves?
The consensus here is that authorities should look at genetic modification of food beyond science and prioritize long-term safety and responsible use for its over 200 million citizens. Mercy Frank, Just Nigeria.
Well, food security is key to the survival of any society. Will you be willing to buy GMO foods in the market? Share your thoughts with us on X at Gist Nigeria TV. We'd like to hear from you. Now,